A very good morning to you. Hello and welcome to our coverage of the world-famous Windmill tournament here in a very windy Amsterdam. Joining us for the first round of games. It's an open matchup between two teams going to be heading off to the World Club Championships in Cincinnati next month. Frisbee's in red and KFUM Orebro in the white. Teams kicks off a little early, eager to get as much game time as possible. KFUM started on offense and then turned it over, and Frisbee's giving it back to them. And you, as we mentioned, it is very windy out here, so there's going to be probably quite a few turnovers, more than either side would probably have liked. Start swinging the disc all the way across the field there to Dwala. Going to have a deep shot right on the spot.
Really nice backhand there.
And Ref Yonkers, he's going to dish it to Desmet. And so it's a break to start for Frisbee's, taking a 1-0 lead. Now it'll be a good live with a little break to introduce ourselves. Benjamin Rees here with you on commentary for the start of this game, joined by Hilary Humes. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Windy Windmill. Looking at some really tough ultimate today because it will be the test of who can play in this weather. We're not expecting to see this wind die down. It's currently breezing at about 27 kilometers per hour.
Good knowledge. You'll be able to see quite a lot in the background. All these flags fluttering about in the wind, and there's a huge supply of tents. And they got a bit of a buffeting overnight. It was pretty dicey stuff at various points, but I think from what I've seen, everyone managed to stay alive and just about sheltered. So that's a win. Just going to go for Frisbee's backhand into the middle of the pitch.
Not a bad backhand considering the wind.
Yeah, the wind's kind of going a bit everywhere. Players, a lot of contact with the disc, so you can trust them to make plays later on.
That's right, Benji. I mean, as we see, big forehand. Just had so much speed on that, and the touch was just a little bit too much. It kind of came out and then came out, curved around the end zone and came back in at the end.
Touch too far.
That's right. But it was correct what you were saying, Benji. I mean, it's not a bad thing just to take those small passes in between the handlers and get a lot of hands on disc just to walk it in safely. I mean, we've seen lots of turnovers already in this second point. They could easily get it back.
Yeah, very early on in this game. The first game ran a little shorter than the others. Forward, just simple.
Early morning mistakes.
Yeah, a little spanner on that catch, and they're going to get it back. Thank God. Finds Byron getting a little underneath. Defender jinking and driving in the end zone, so left to get free. Just content to reset back to Vanguard. Looking for the inside, that's a nice shot. On the doorstep of the end zone, can he find a way to force it in instead of the reset to Vanguard?
Oh,
and the
no.
shot was dropped. That was the opportunity there. Found the play he liked in space, but couldn't complete it. Frisbee's not going to hang around, but got a bit forced.
Hail Mary pass. Grabs it down.
Yeah, pretty hairy stuff, but it was completed anyway. Here's Cones. Takes a backhand toward that force side for Stevens.
This is the second pick called here, and I think I've already worked out why they're calling picks. Both teams are very close to the handlers. They're stacking very close, and so it feels very cluttered while I'm looking at it. It must feel incredibly more cluttered when you're on the field because there's just not that much space to run through, which is why you're getting these picks being called.
And they're going to go for a big break across the field into space. That's a perfect throw.
Beautiful.
That's another break.
He had so much time to run onto that disc. I mean, that's what you want to see, isn't it?
That was nice stuff. Your point about why these picks are happening is very, very valid because, and I think the wind is playing a factor in that because teams are coming close to this because they know that the handlers aren't necessarily that comfortable throwing into the deep space, especially going into the wind. More so when it's at your back, but you can do it. But in that direction, it's really tricky. And so naturally everyone clutters, but you still have to grind those deep cuts because even if you don't get thrown to, has to open the space.
That's right. The fundamentals of Frisbee don't change in the wind. You still need to make space for your players. So if you're making a cut, sometimes it's not about making a cut to get the disc. It's about making a cut to clear out of space so that another player can come in and fill that gap. And both teams aren't making that observation at this point in time.
If anything, fundamentals are more important in this weather. You really need to make sure you're getting lots of rotation on the disc, creating lots of space because it's at a premium in this weather. Ball goes up from Frisbee, so Orebro going to get another chance on offense.
Benji, I laugh every time you say the ball goes up. Like this is some sort of round sport object.
I'm clearly saying cool, but they've just got a gravelly voice at the moment. Right? leave me alone. Spin goes to Yen here. Frisbee's playing a zone here is a pretty smart strategy, I think, Hillary.
Yeah, absolutely great strategy in these winds and these conditions. And it's actually working for them in the sense that like they're now creating lots more space for the other players. They're now further downfield, and I'm sure that these players have the throws to throw it into the wind. It's just they're not passing themselves. They just need to warm up a little bit first here.
That was a really nice transition into one-on-one defense there from Frisbee. Pretty seamless. Now, see if they can finally break through or contested undercut. Well caught though under a lot of pressure from the Frisbee's defense. The anger guard has it trapped right on this near sideline.
He's in a danger zone here because it's really tough on these sidelines. He's caught with the wind. Oh, bubbles and catches it out.
Yeah, I think by the time he actually caught the disc, he did.
Oh! Turns around and says, "I want this disc back." Yeah, blocks it.
Lure fumbled the catch at first time round. When he finally maintained possession, he might have been inbounds, but he'd obviously crossed it out of bounds before that point. But what a way to make amends. It was just a...
We see the handlers picking up the disc. He might have actually completely demented it, but that's what you got to do in these situations.
Arkeling senses to Byron to get things started. Looking for that around. Here's anger guard once more. Oh, he's going to take a shot towards the far side of the field. It's going to go over De Moulin-Air.
That looks so nice.
It was a lovely throw from Orebro, and they're finally on the board.
And very trusting in this wind as well, because as you were saying earlier, the wind, it is quite variable, but at the moment it is going left to right on the screen here. And so that was a throw into the wind. That player had to recognise where the space was over the top of another defender and put it up perfectly.
Interesting there, we saw Frisbee going with a backhand force. A lot of the time in these wins, teams tend to force forehand. This is one system's going backhand there.
Backhand into the wind or against the wind?
I mean, because I think partly it's to trap them on this sideline, but also I think it's a lot harder to break with that around flick in the wind than it would be with
yeah. I certainly always like to force a flick in the wind because I think, you know, people are so confident with their backhands. It's when you push up for a flick and people just, that's when you can see those fails. And as we saw earlier, we did see forehands go up that weren't just quite right, because in these conditions, like you put it at the wrong angle and it's just going to go either directly to the ground or way up into space.
Speaking of way up into space, that was probably not the desired result there for KFUM. They're going to take it from the sideline. Beezzz decides he's going to take the field position. Play that. Going to bring it in and again, really good field position. On this sideline, they're pretty much right at the level with the attacking brick mark. Oh, that's a floating throw.
I like that pressure run though. He came in, put the pressure on the team.
Not letting it have it easy. Here's Ben Yonkers. Finds Van der Luke. Oh, that throw's a little bit low. Ref Yonkers tried to save it, but couldn't do it. And now Lurf will pick up.
Frisbee's sticking with man. Interesting choice.
I think they feel that maybe perhaps with the wind a bit more in KFUM's advantage, Oh.
That's true, as we see that disc just shooting for the tents.
Yeah, was looking for number 66, Felix Anderson, but the wind just pushed it out of his reach. Got a couple of steps deep, but all for naught in the end.
I still sort of feel like these teams are, they're just still warming up, aren't they? We haven't really seen them switch on yet. We've seen lots of turnovers, and it's a result. It is a result of the wind, but it is also, you know, perhaps.
First game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Just not quite in your stride as yet. Here's Van der Leeuw.
They've got to find their groove, and they're in the danger zone right now in the end zone line, in their own box. They have to get it out, and it might be a Hail Mary pass to the end.
I mean, they've got good deep receivers, so it's not necessarily a terrible option. Oh, that's a nice little through, and now they're going to run the gauntlet a bit. Ref Yonkers takes it. Demoulinaire's going to put it up to him. It's going to sit and float. It's going to tail back towards that far sideline. Oh!
Oh, yes! Recovery!
Oh, and another recovery there by the Orebro defense.
Oh, that was incredible.
Oh, I thought they'd got the turn, and excellent hustle to keep the disc alive, but then just jammed it maybe a little bit too quick. And
I mean, KFUM just looked straight for the deep shot. I mean, it looked beautiful. They had players there. You had backups. I mean, that was a great sign. Always have a backup there.
So Orebro working towards a break to bring things level again. Anderson's going to put it deep. Sideline's got to worry about, and Demoulinaire's just so big. Comes over the top for the D, but it felt like there was a bit of contact there. And there is going to be a foul called by number 34, Burgle. It seems like it's going to be a quick contest. Both sides having a different viewpoint, and rather than hang about, just going to go back. So difficult trying to take Demoulinaire's deep because he's just such a huge figure on the field.
Yeah, he's fast and tall. I mean, he's got the height. It's domineering sort of players like that. They're hard to come up against.
I mean, in the little roster sheets that all these teams have filled out this weekend, in the fun facts it says, PJ, spicing up commentated games since 2015. So they gave us a little bit of spice there as well. Here's Anderson. Takes the reset off. Blade's going to try and come back in. PJ's going to be all over that. He didn't actually get there in the end, but
had the right positioning though.
Yeah, just shot Holmgren out in it.
And actually what I think happened there was if the wind hadn't picked it up and like taken it to another level,
he probably would have had it.
He probably would have had it, but it actually just picked it up.
And I think KFUM need to think about which deep shots they're taking here, because of all the players on the field, I would not want to take deep. He's probably the first. Nice little scuba there, get things going against this zone.
Yeah, you're right. If I saw him deep, I'd probably look for another option. He's such a good threat. He's such a good defender.
Here's Van der Leeuw, president of Frisbee's, organiser extraordinaire of Tom's tourney, which for the first time ever, Frisbee's actually won this year. Sudden death win over Shaq in the final, which is pretty cool. Boris does a great job putting that all together, as well as just being a generally lovely bloke and a pretty good ultimate player as well. This zone from Orebro is working really well. KFUM just pushing them back and really in Callahan country, finally getting it out of their own end zone, but they're still pretty close back and can't really find a way through this loose cup at the front. Tries to blade over the top and doesn't come to anything, so this is great field possession for Orebro. Hammer's going to go to the break side, so there's going to be a call in the middle of the field, though. Hammer was an interesting decision there. It's a little discussion between the players about what the resolution's going to be. Love is going to maintain possession for the Swedes. Rocking a pretty resplendent beard there, has to be said. Great big bushy beard. Which is very in, I understand, with millennials. So.
Which is the theme of this tournament, isn't it, Benji?
Hashtag with millennials. I've been Instagramming, my my adventures so far. I think you're doing the same, aren't you, Hillary?
Yes, I have been.
So we are devastatingly on brand.
Building that content, you know? It's all about the content, isn't it?
Hashtag Instagram influence.
Yeah.
I can't even say influencers. Man, the week's already gained. We've only just started playing.
We've just started playing.
Thankfully you can't see because the cameras weren't pointing this direction, but we've just did a fantastic selfie. Oh, there's the hammer again. And
oh! I love that grab. Running towards the gate to get out of town, because that was saucy.
Arkeling got high for that hammer, and it was an interesting look because rather than flatten out, it kept it pretty vertical and knifey the entire way.
Yeah, it would have been a tricky one to read. I mean, he had to have full stretched arms out, 2 hands, but it was a safe catch, and you always got to go with 2 hands when you can, just in case. You never know.
Especially in the wind. But we saw before that stoppage that they did go for the hammer, so maybe that gave him an inkling that it was going to come again, and was actually executed to perfection. So 2-2 here, the current score between Frisbees and Orebro. Sun's beginning to come out now as well. It's not going to stop the wind, but it's going to make things slightly warmer. But yesterday evening at the welcome party was pretty chilly.
Pool goes up, looking quite good considering the wind. Orebro setting back up into their zone, which was working for them before, but I think they can be a little bit tighter. Any changes you would make on that zone?
I think it works very well in the other direction. This way, where the deep is more of a threat. It'd be interesting to see if Frisbee stay patient, or whether they take the really tempting figure of Ref Yonkers deep.
Yeah, that's right, because they have the advantage of being able to send the disc deep with that subtle touch on it, because the wind is in their favour.
And they're swinging it around really nicely at the moment. Not taking that shot, but getting a couple of yards on these swings and just slowly advancing it down the field as Van der Luke's going to swing back into the centre. And then they find a little pass through. Demillionaire's got it, and Yonkers is so open deep.
In acres of space.
No one
Freedom
even in the
player.
same postcode. That was perfectly done. Just took their time, make it nice and simple, and then defender came in to get a block and couldn't do it, and that left a space elsewhere on the field. It's one of such a key thing when playing zone defense is that discipline. You've got to know that if you can't get there, you've got to back off, and that time he gambled and he lost, and that left the player wide open, and Demillionaire was able to put it on the spot for the goal. So 3-2 to Frisbee is the current score. The score was just a little bit slow to update, but don't worry, we're on top of everything.
Benji, are we meant to be updating it?
If they are, nobody's told me.
We'll soon find out, won't we?
Just a couple of gremlins in the system, maybe early on. That ball from Frisbee's blades towards that far sideline, and might have just landed in bounds, so Angergaard's going to centre it, and Orebro. O-line comes back out to work. Just dished into the middle there for Salin. Here's Angergaard. Finds the break to Byron. Big fake, and instead just takes the swing into the middle. Ooh.
Oh, looked a little risky, but contained it.
And there's a really nice deep shot.
Oh,
fantastically read as well by Salin. I thought he got too far underneath it, but he made the catch.
That's right. He was at a point where he either had to grab it or it was gone. he just got the fingertips around it. But he made it look very easy. I mean, those shots they're not easy, are they? But he took that down nice and comfortably.
So we're tied back up again at 3-all. Although Frisbee start on defense, so they're a break up, and if KFUM are going to get it back, they have to work against the wind, which is definitely the harder of the two directions to go in.
Frisbee's having a considerably... Oh no, sorry, I only saw 2 people on the sideline here thinking, oh, that's a very short roster, but there's more on the other side.
So the Frisbee's O-line's going to go back to work. I didn't see exactly where the disc went. I'll go ahead behind one of the little dugouts on the other side. It's going to be Ben Yonkers to bring it in. Younger brother of Ref. These 2 big pickups coming over from Mooncatchers to play Worlds with Frisbees, and of course we found out that Mooncatchers have since got a spot to Worlds, and they're going to take us pretty different roster, and Yonkers is going to shoot deep for de Moulinaire, and defender can only watch it sail over his head. Ackling has no chance.
Oh, and that defender knew that that was happening as he saw the disc just sail over his head. I mean, it just was so perfect, right in that tiny little pocket.
And you see it on the replay, just a perfect put deep, and you can see it just like gives up. He knows that time he's had his lunch money taken there.
I mean, when you've got de Moulinaire just running deep, you just send it anywhere really, and you'll trust that he will bring it down.
Yeah, as long as you put enough air under it, you're probably going to be all right. Which is a pretty satisfying thing to have as a thrower. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, I love having players that you can just throw to and say, go and get that wherever I put it. You make your cut, and it's great because when handlers are generating those cuts, that actually clears up a lot of space on the field because they're throwing to the empty space where no one is, which allows people to run onto it.
So 4-3 to Frisbees. Windmill in to whip up a little bit more now. They've already been on halfway now, KFUM. Been able to work it underneath pretty effectively so far. Here's Anger Guard. Takes the around and break. To Salin. Yoncio's is going to pop up out of his hands and mopped up by the Frisbee's D.
Nice mark though. Puts the pressure on.
The deep shot's going to go. Oh, it's going to sit. Nice. Really well reeled in by Cohen. It's a really big athletic grab.
The high jumper gets up there.
Yeah, rather than just force it in, going to take the reset. Frisbee's going to try and get into their end zone offense. Looking a bit messy though. Has to take an inside flick. Oh, just can't quite get there on the tip. Oh! No! Another break for Frisbees, and they're going to do it in a exhilarating fashion. Jasper Lintians couldn't get it at the first attempt under good pressure from Salin, but the disc fluttered for a little bit and he was able to mop it up, collecting his own sloppy seconds to give Frisbees a 5-3 lead here.
I mean, Frisbees put up a very dangerous throw. It could have gone straight out of the end zone and onto the sideline, but instead that player, I think that defensive block actually assisted with Frisbees bringing down that disc.
One of the things where it's obviously frustrating for KFUM because obviously they did manage to make the catch, but did very well and forced a risky shot on a high stall, but on this occasion it just fell nicely for Frisbee. So 5-3 the current scoreline. Benjamin Reese and Hilary Humes here with you at the world famous Windmill tournament here in Amsterdam. It's part of ULTI.TV's live streaming here this weekend. 2 pitches today and tomorrow, 7 rounds of games, so 28 games over these next 2 days, plus all the finals on Sunday. It's a hell of a weekend of Ultimate we've got coming up for you.
And for some of these teams, it's the last tournament before the World Ultimate Club Championships in Cincinnati, Ohio. So this is their final tournament, final warm-up for that huge opportunity to take on the best in the world.
That's a lovely deep shot. I thought he'd lost it in the air for a second, but Byron does track it.
He had lost it actually, I think, but it just sort of dipped in front of his eyes at that last moment for him to snatch it in.
So KFUM get an upwind hold, still trailing by 1. It's 5-4 the current scoreline. Yeah, you mentioned this is for many teams the last stop on the road to Cincinnati. Both of these teams will be making an appearance there, and so will the 2 teams in the other game we've got going on the field behind us, which is also being streamed on the other channel. That game between Ragnarok and the Big Easy. There's a replay of that deep shot. It's flat, and I think he kind of loses it, has to turn over his other shoulder, but tracks it well. And then nice little dish into the end zone for the goal. And that was a pretty nice point there, has to be said, from KFUM.
Yeah, it looked textbook. It looked like how you train and, you know, your weekday trainings. I'm just going to huck it long, you catch it, and then you have another follow-through cutter to be there in the end zone. Fairly prescriptive there. Do you think these teams are going to be going out with set plays, or are they going to be trying to do it a bit organic with these types of conditions?
It's interesting because I think I'd be tempted to play a bit more organically in these conditions, knowing that set plays in this weather, it's gonna the elements are going to take, almost going to act as another defender and take some stuff away for you. And I think it's probably just easier just to get the disc moving and work from there. Now, whether you prefer to get the disc moving by just playing Frisbee, or whether you want to have a set play to do that, that all depends on how your team as a unit operates.
I tend to agree. In offense, you definitely want to be a bit organic, particularly when it's windy like this. You can't just stick with what you've been training for. But in defense, often your defense is to work with whatever wind conditions you've got. So I would stick with, you know, a fairly sort of set lineup.
This zone from KFUM is really forcing Frisbee's back, and I think it's partly because they're not really moving the disc quick enough for my liking. They're getting a bit of swing, and then they're trying to force it downfield for maybe a couple of seconds too long before looking at the reset.
Well, the other challenge is the way that KFU are set up with their zone. They're not allowing those cutters down the line, so they're not getting anything through. They're only getting things sideways, which is great for KFUM, not ideal for Frisbees.
And obviously in this way the side's right to take the overheads. Wind really whipping up again now. There's always something there, but every now and then you get a huge gust, which makes it even more difficult than it normally is. But this is pretty calm and assured at the moment. Just need to get a bit more attacking motion going.
There's lots of players up front as well with this zone. So all Frisbees need is a nice cut, a nice throw through the cup, away from those players, and move it really quickly. And KFUM will be streaming behind. But you're not seeing those opportunities come out here. And that's the challenge, is you just need that one shot deep. But with the wind, you just don't know what's going to happen.
I think maybe because they're getting these swings, and as you mentioned, they're covering continuation cuts. We're better off having a couple of cuts going and forcing that wing defender to make a choice, and hopefully freeing up one of your cutters. They're going all the way backwards, and this is properly Callahan country now.
Yeah, this is incredibly dangerous, and as we see, a block of some sort, but there is a bit of a discussion here. Could have been a strip, but it looked really good.
Yeah,
hard
I think
to tell.
It seems like Ben Yonkers was saying that he already had the disc in his grasp before the contact came. It's pretty tight.
This is probably the best defensive point here, though, from KFUM. I mean, they've absolutely pushed Frisbees right down to the end zone.
Yeah, considering the start of the brick mark, this is incredible stuff.
Yeah, and they've kept them there for a long time. Frisbees are going to have to work really quickly. They're going to need to move fast, and I think it's going to have to be a run and gun type of play where they just need to move really quickly. Maybe it's just a 1-2 between the handlers just to get it going really quickly, have a nice deep cut that comes back up the line through the cup. The other thing that what they're doing is, because they're only passing sideways, they're not gaining those meters. They need people running through the cup to break it up and to get them to run and catch discs in the middle of the wall so that they have to retreat back. Because every time the defenders have to reset, you have those opportunities to move quicker and to get through.
Oh, going to try everything's up with a hammer towards that far sideline, and the wind is going to take it out of the pitch and towards the tents, and so the pressure told, and in the end KFUM do get the turn, so they've got to level things up here with a goal. Being trapped on the sidelines is a difficult place to start, though.
Fakes a big forehand.
Yeah, that could turn over in pretty short order. Try to squeeze it through. Oh, somehow caught anyway by Frisbees. And there's the big shot coming. Looking for Yonkers. Oh, he got his hand there first and nearly had it. It's going to call a foul on it, I think, as well.
There's a bit of contact, but it might have just been incidental, really. I think, actually, 88 had it cleanly.
See players engage in discussion.
We've had a lot of calls made today already in this game. It's slowing down the pace, and quite frankly, I don't think it's working for either team. For KFUM, it helps them. They get to catch their breath, reset. They're in defense, so they know what they need to do. But for Frisbees, I mean, I think it's slowing down their pace. They just need to move on quickly.
That attempt to get the disc back to the handler didn't quite go as planned. Yeah, and as well, I think it's one of the things that happens quite a lot in these windy games, because discs float and they become swilly. You're going to get multiple people under it, and that does tend to cause these collisions and foul calls. Take the deep shot again. Frisbee's going to work underneath as the wind is really whipping up now. This is ferocious stuff from the elements. You can see just a little swing pass there, how the wind was fluttering, because it just had the edge, just had a tiny bit of edge on it.
Yeah, the wind has certainly picked up a few knots now, making it incredibly hard for Frisbees. They have solid handlers, but they're not connecting with each other and being dynamic in their movements.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. They're making these fakes downfield, but the other players aren't motioning off them, aren't using the spaces these fakes open up to go and attack open areas.
And the other thing is, every time a handler gets a disc, there's not somebody there who's open at that moment, and they're having to wait for someone to get free. Now, as a receiver, your responsibility is to time your cuts. And we just see a fumble there from Frisbees. KFUM get the disc back right on the doorstep of scoring.
So on that fast sideline now, Love has it. He's going to try and play it all the way across the field. And in the end, it's just going to go out the back of the end zone. Still count rising, didn't really have any options
Benji, just to go back to what I was saying before,
Of course.
as a receiver, you do have a responsibility to time your cut. So it's not about making a cut once your handler has the disc in hand. It's about anticipating them catching the disc. So you time your cut to get it to be free when they're looking up to throw. And that's the important thing, as we see Frisbees are gaining some meters. They're out of the danger zone now.
Yeah, it was a nice tone on this sideline, and then they managed to swing it all the way across, but they've got to keep going forward with it. They can't just stagnate and go backwards again. Oh, there's going to be a travel called on the throw by Van der Look. Taps it back in, and Frisbees get moving once more. It's DeWeiler. He's going to put it deep. Oh, it's going to be not.
Oh! Catch your D's, brother.
How many times do we say it on commentary? Catch your D's, and Arkeling's guilty that time. And
oh no!
you do not need to give Demilionera any more opportunities than he's going to create, and if you do, he's going to do that.
There has been too many opportunities in this entire game where there's been a defensive block or a touch on the disc, but the opponent has still picked it up and scored from it or regained possession. I mean, you've got to learn by now. You're experienced Frisbee players. You know what you're doing. You cannot risk it. You need to catch it.
Almost looked like he was playing Macklin out there. just got enough of it just to flutter it up, and if you don't catch it, someone else will. So we're going to have a little timeout here from Frisbees. Just going to get a chance to reset their heads. KFUM Orebro, already ready to receive.
Really good idea to actually call a timeout after those long points. There would be some things that you would say in this circle, and I think for me, if I was their coach, I would be in there saying, guys, I need you to be a bit more dynamic. You need to move through. You need to run and attack the disc. Receivers, you need to create some space. You need to create those options and be there. As we were saying before, create those options when your handler looks up, has just caught the disc. Would there be anything you would add, Benji?
I mean, the thing I would point out is that, I mean, obviously that last point wasn't exactly what we wanted, but it's 6-4. We're a couple of points up. We've got the wind at our back, so we're still in a good position. And while we can play better, we still need to think that actually, like, it's not like we're playing terribly as well. So we can do better, but
that's right. I mean, they're still up, but it's, as you see from each point, it's really hard to tell because both teams are grinding out there.
Guys, it's 6-4. Oh, it's a really deep pull from Frisbees. He's going to land just about in bounds. Went out the back, so they're going to bring it to the front of the end zone.
Yeah.
Just got this near sideline, maybe thinking about the deep shot. Good coverage on that underneath cut by Angergaard. Nice little spin move to get free from his defender. Trying to find an option, not a lot going on. Has to put it deep, and well, again, these discs float, but that's not going to float enough. Oh, bro. And so, another break chance here for Frisbees. So I think that would be a good chance to mention, obviously, those of you familiar with Windmill will know about this. Those of you who haven't been here or not really kept up with it in the past might not know this, but Windmill doesn't work like other tournaments. We'll come back to that after this possession from Frisbees. And they're going to immediately shoot deep. What a throw. It's going to be too far, though.
Genuinely looked really good from the outset, and just, it was so fast, and that player had great speed on his legs, but he just couldn't get it in. I mean, the disc just kind of got really low as well and just too far out, but it looked good. And now Frisbees have to, sorry, KFUM have to move it all the way up.
Yeah, the full length of the pitch and against the wind, and we saw there it popped it up, and
It's exactly what Freezz's probably planned, knowing that there would be a turnover. I mean, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, a little bit of huck and D almost. Just playing the smart field position game. That's a lovely inside break to get things started. Looking towards the end zone. Cut to the open side, well reeled in with one hand by Aaron Stevens, and that's another break for the Frisbees, and they're now up 7-4. And the point I was going to make was Windmill works on the infamous Swiss draw format. So first round of games are done by pre-tournament seedings decided by the prediction contest, and then after that the almighty algorithm works out your next opponent based on similar results and how well you've done in previous games. And so it's one of these things, but even if you're losing, every point matters, because I've seen it happen in the past where quarterfinal places, teams have missed out because they've just dropped 1 or 2 points in one game somewhere. And
yeah, it's a really interesting way to play a tournament because you don't know who you're going to be pitched up against. So it could be anybody for that matter.
It makes it difficult to prepare for games.
That's right. I mean, I think in a way it makes it fair across the board because you don't know who your competitors are except for everyone. It could be anyone, so you have to be your best. You have to bring your best team here if you want to make the finals.
And obviously the way it works is by matching, it puts teams who've got had similar results and scorelines together, so theoretically you have close games all the way throughout the tournament.
And ideally that's what you want. You don't want these blowout games that are, you know, either easy or you're on the losing side of. You want to play a competitive game. They're always more fun, in my opinion. I mean, I've always enjoyed a close game. You get to grind, you get to really punish yourself and see how far you can go. And you learn more as a team and as an individual in those close games than you do with those stretched out games.
I don't know, I quite like a 15-0 win. But I do get your point. Like, it's when you really have to work for it, it feels a bit more satisfying and rewarding. Quick turnover there. Byron's going to pick up, looking maybe for the end zone, instead going to take the reset back. Byron once more, looking for the inside forehand. That's a lovely throw right in the spot to Huckling. So that's going to reduce the deficit, but Frisbee's still a couple of points up at 7-5.
I mean, Frisbees need to make a few subtle changes, but I think it's more in their offense as opposed to their defense, because we saw their zone was incredibly well formed and it was very tight. Their offense, so their receivers aren't running through and clearing out quick enough, and so when the handler has a disc, there are still receivers streaming behind them running through, which is causing a bit of a clutter, and they're not presenting more than one option. So often there's only one option to throw to, which is why they're getting these turnovers. They're down, it's still quite close, but would there be anything that you would add to that, Benji? Any changes for the Frisbees?
I think for either side, like, you've just got to keep, you knew what your game plan was going in. This is one of the few games you actually can game plan for as well. So just obviously make maybe a couple of adjustments, but just stick with your thinking that you had coming in. Like, and try not, obviously you've got to use the wind as a factor as well, but you can't just say, oh, we're going to let the wind dictate this game.
Yeah, you need to play your game. I think that's the thing, is you need to adjust for the win, but you still need to maintain what your team's goals and objectives are and how you train.
So Frisbee's about to get towards the KFUM end zone. Big fake there. Looks around, just takes the dump off. Trying to squeeze it through. Just going to take a little dish towards that far sideline. That's a nice inside through. Dominguez's got it pretty close to the end zone. He's got resets available if he wants them. Does a smart thing and takes one there. Just happy to dishing it between the hands at the moment. Don't want to try and force it in unless they have to. And that's a smart thing to do in this wind, because if you rush a shot, the wind's generally going to make it difficult for you. And oh, we saw it there.
What happened there, Benji? That was just a complete, utter miscommunication from the team.
I think he saw the space that he wanted Ref Yonkers to go into, but He didn't see it the same way. So this goes harmlessly to no one, and it's a break chance for KFUM. Love will pick up and stride to the front of the end zone. I think it's about an around to start. It's quite a flat mark, trying to force these throws to go wide rather than upfield. And Anderson just spills it, looking for the quick pickup, and just struck too quickly, and the Orebro defense couldn't get set. And that's going to take us to an 8-5 scoreline. And that'll be half time as well, I think. See it again here on the replay. Just dished it into the center of the field, and defender gets caught on the hand and should probably stick with the runner, and he doesn't. That leaves him wide open at the front of the end zone for the goal, and the 8-5 half-time lead for Frisbees.
KFUM now 3 points down. They looked like they'd almost given up in that last point there, but the game's not over, and this is the first game of the tournament. They need to lift their spirits more than they need to think about what they're doing. They just need to get a bit of confidence, get a bit excited. It does look a bit flat out there for them. I mean, Frisbee seem to be enjoying it a little bit more, and sometimes that can just be all the difference is just, you know, if you're enjoying the game, you're more likely to just make the right moves and work it in easier. When you're disappointed with what you've done, or you're just, you know, your head's down, it reflects not just on you but across your whole team, because people recognize that. They start to lose confidence in your ability to throw or your ability to catch, and that's not what you want when you're out there, because you want to trust every single player. They just need to lift their heads.
And obviously the thing with Swiss Draw is, because every point matters, it's not easy to take things on a point-by-point basis. So, okay, well, we might not win, but if we get this point, it helps our coefficient. And then, oh, if we get this next point, it helps our coefficient. And before you know that, you can mount a comeback.
That's right. If you take it in that sort of stride and you just go 1 point at a time and just think, you know, perhaps we're not going to win it now, but we still need to get points on the board, then you've got that drive, and you need to pick up that internal, you know, spirit in you that says, I want to win and I want to get points on the board. And we've seen bigger comebacks before. This isn't a large gap.
You've probably worked this out, and by you I mean Hillary and everyone listening at home, that I really dig the Swiss draw. I really dig the Swiss draw.
It makes for better viewing purposes, doesn't it? When you have closer games, that's for sure.
So the second half begins with an inside-out backhand pull that
Very
just comes
nice.
in bounds. That's really nicely done. And a Callahan!
No, I think it might be on
Or is it?
Facebook.
Frisbee's player is signalling goal, but I don't know if there was a contact as he came through. Maybe he's calling a strip, perhaps. It was a hell of a play. Regardless, like, chasing down the ball is so important, and that's why, because they were a bit slow getting it moving, and it allowed him to steal through that inside channel. Anderson made the play. The Frisbee's player caught on his heels a little bit.
Ooh, we just saw in that replay there, it could well and truly have been a strip. It looked like both players had hands on the disc there.
Yeah, you have to trust, obviously, Ben Yonkers wouldn't have called it unless he really believed that he had control of it. And in the end, it is going to be a strip, so that heroic play doesn't materialise. And the throw's going deep there. Looking for Yonkers. There's a play wide open in the end. It's going to float a little bit. Oh, guys, a bit of contact for his troubles, and try to loosen up his shoulder. Got quite a big bump. The throw was not great. I was looking for DeSitter, and it was just too close to the defender, so he had to attack it. And that caused a little bit of contact. Seems to be okay there, so he's just going to check the disc in. And just dish it off to Ref Yonkers for the Frisbee's goal. And they came so close to giving up a Callahan there, but a fraction of a second, it's a strip, and in the end they march it down the field, open things up with a deep shot, and then KFUM could never recover. So it's now 9-5 to Frisbee's. That was tense.
That was tense. I mean, that was a bit of confidence boost for KFUM. I mean, that was a great rundown chase on that pull.
I think you're right, because even though even the end, but by the tiniest of margins, it wasn't a Callahan. Like, you're seeing that if we're just a split second faster next time, we've got that, and that's going to be a heartening thing for your team.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes one move and just one moment to really lift your team. But it also goes to show about it's not just the players on the field, it's also about the players on the sideline. They have a responsibility too to their team. They have to cheer, they have to be able to yell the team's objectives or whatever the team plan is for that point. And sometimes that's what makes the difference. When a team is really loud and cheering for themselves, it just makes such an impact.
So good spirit there from KFUM, giving up the turn. Frisbee's will bring the disc in. Looking downfield now, or just the throw's a little bit behind. And so KFUM are going to get the disc back. Oh, and just threw into traffic again there. Both sides looking a little bit sloppy at this point, turning the disc over a few times, and still counts rising. This is good pressure. Oh, defender comes in to help, and that leaves the player behind wide open. Fakes a scuba and puts that back in the locker. I'd have loved to have seen it, but maybe in this weather you kind of understand why he decided against it.
As we see the disc just flying up really high, Freezz's having to grab it at a full stretch. Oh, and a fumble through the hands. KFU get another opportunity to close the gap. KFUM trapped on the sideline though. Moving it down. They're stacked very closely, but they look to dish it to the center. Looks for a big, fakes it, dishes it to his handler, centers it back again. Now onto the close sideline.
This is looking better now from Orebro. A bit more assured and confident.
Yeah, they're just taking nice 1 and 2 at a time. And they're creating space for a lot of their players, as we see them moving it nice and quickly here.
Yeah, Byron.
Really good. Drops the mark.
Yeah, that's the advantage of having, if you have a lot of snap and power in that fake, defenders are so much more likely to buy. He makes the catch, not quite in the end zone. Forcing in a nice little toe in there from KFUM, and they reduce the deficit. 9-6 down, but not out of it yet.
That's more what they need. I mean, that was a really nice offensive point there. All of those players were gelling, and I think it looked like every single player got a disc on hand. A hand on the disc.
Yeah, you like that they worked it through pretty much their entire team there, and getting everyone that time of the disc and showing they're comfortable is good to see in this weather, because it can be so easy just to not, if you don't trust players, then it really shuts down your offense. You need to show that you can utilize every player on the pitch. makes it so much harder to defend that way. It's Benjamin Reese and Hilary Humes here with you. High in our position up top. I say atop, we're not actually atop, but in our commentary scaffold. Bringing you action from this round 1 game in the open division between KFUM Orebro and Frisbee. Both sides will be representing their home countries and Europe as a whole in the World Ultimate Club Championships in Cincinnati next month.
Frisbee's opting to take the brick.
I think I'd do that. Not really losing many yards, but getting it right in the middle of the field.
Yeah. Oh. And KFUM get another opportunity.
His love with that magnificent beard. It is a thing of beauty. Anger guard. Oh, high release flick. That's filthy.
He's
Love
a true
it.
Swedish Viking there, isn't he, on the field? Oh!
Oh, nice low
Throws at the kneecaps.
Anson comes underneath. Oh, very nearly a run through D. We've got a cutter here coming underneath this anger guard. Swing.
Oh!
Through D.
And he saw that happening and ran through to get that block. That was beautiful.
Could do a little fist bump as he ran through as well. Turned it, took off immediately into a deep cut. Disc didn't go, but it opened up space downfield.
Really nice. Switched on defense, though, from KFUM. They stopped the first few passes. And the height in their players are just too much, as they easily bring down that disc and score.
Yeah, Ref Yonkers and PJ Tamulina are about the 2 best deep receivers in the game at the moment. And
yeah.
having them on the same team is slightly unfair.
And when they're on the same lineup as well in the game, I mean, how do you go up against that with that type of height?
I mean, even then, flows a little throaty in the wind, but backing your receivers to bring them down, and when they repay your faith, it's a pretty good idea, I'd say. So we go there from Frisbee, takes the score to 10-6, I believe. Or 10, hang on, let me do my maths. Yep, 10-7 checks out to me.
I trust you, Benji.
I don't trust me.
KFUM are just playing a little bit lethargically, and it may have just been, you know, a bad sleep. Didn't get the right warm-up that they needed.
Yeah, I should point out that Frisbees have been here we're here for a good hour before the game started, and KFU had probably only about half an hour or so. And
maybe that's what made all of the difference, is that Frisbees were here preparing, because sometimes it's not just about your team warm-up, but your mental warm-up, getting switched on in the game.
Yeah, the mental aspect is something that's underlooked in the warm-up, I think. Oh, nice focus there by Byron.
And often some people say, you know, the first game is the warm-up and it's the most important one, because if you can come out firing and playing like you're switched on straight away, then
that's a lovely put there for the goal.
That was beautiful. No, that was absolutely magnificent, that shot there. A neat pass to the end zone.
So in my head, I make that 10-7 now. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the scoreboard, but obviously I fully accept that I'm potentially wrong, and that doesn't happen very often. So
that you're wrong or that you're right?
Both.
doesn't happen very often either way.
Yeah, generally it's just nonsense, so it's difficult to tell.
I mean, what do we know, Benji?
I mean, I'd hope quite a lot. That's why we give him the job. Very windy day here at Windmill, but then I don't know what we expected. It is Windmill after all.
And a flat country like the Netherlands, I mean.
It's so flat. It's like, I was commentating EYUC last year in Veenendaal, and on the drive from Amsterdam Airport, our our driver, who's one of the crew, one of the ULTI.TV crew here this week, was, hey Benji, if you look out the window, there's the one hill in the entirety of the Netherlands.
Oh, wow. Oh, and that was a really nice pull because Frisbees are now trapped on their sideline in that corner.
Yeah, coffin corner is not a very nice position to be in.
Oh, big fake from the mark onto the ground.
But he catches it, and then it's a couple of seconds before they get the disc moving again. And that's what they need to do a lot more of, is get it moving quickly. That's a lovely scuba over the top, finding a player in space. And I want to see them attack downfield and drive it, the disc a bit more. They're being very safe and secure, but I think they need to be a bit more aggressive.
I mean, we say this, but they are up, and they did, you know, score off these defensive points, these offensive points before when KFUM were putting on this zone.
Yeah, what do we know?
We say all these things. They need to make all these subtle improvements, but they're still scoring. But, oh.
Got a little, that time, obviously we said they want to be aggressive. That wasn't really the shot, it was never open. And
no, the Viking was there. He was in the space, guarding it as he walks over and picks up the disc.
Love. Takes the swing. Gonna get the disc back towards that break side from Jorma Bergholm.
Travel called on the mark.
Player's just gonna get back into position downfield. Oh, nice push pass, but it's gonna be a stall out. Didn't get it off in time. Thunder looks, tried towards the disc.
KFUM now setting up again in their zone, but the Frisbees are out of their danger zone, so it's looking easier for them to make ground.
It's a little leading pass to Benjamin Yonkers. And they're just popping it around to the back. And it just feels like they're only one cut away at times from really having, oh, that's a huge hammer towards the far side, but the wind held it up and it was picked off deep by KFUM. Jorma Bergholm finds Love. He's going to shoot deep, and that's going to go over nearly everyone in the end. Akeling was able...
Poorly read. The disc was going over the top of his head. He just needed to step back a couple of centimeters so that he had that ability to grab it in front of him.
I think the problem was the disc came at such a pace, he just didn't quite have time to adjust.
It did speed down, and through the hands of a Frisbee's defender. I mean, that was incredible that they didn't get the block to begin with.
So you're going to get the disc, and that's a nice shot through, and that's what they need. Now they can get off to the races.
This is looking really nice. They're moving it through all these players, weaving it left, right, and center.
Good holster there, I think, by Dominic. Was a receiver, but the defenders crowded off to try and provide some coverage. Oh, that's a pretty dodgy scuba, it has to be said, but was well reeled in. On a huge hammer over the top, this sitter is wide open, and that's going to work for Frisbees.
I mean, that player was there waiting for that hammer. It was a risky shot in these type of windy conditions, but when you've got that sort of force and that flick on your wrist, you certainly can put that up.
Yeah, generating so much torque for it to cut through the air, and it began to helix at the end, but he was so open and he read it well that it wasn't really an issue.
And KFUM completely forgot about that player. They probably didn't even realize it was there. Another easy score for Frisbees.
Just able to leak out the backside.
Taking it now to 11-8, if the score is correct. And for the first time in the game, we hear the Frisbee's sidelines start to cheer. Perhaps it's a European thing that they don't cheer. I'm not too sure. Benji?
No, I think we've definitely seen teams with louder sidelines. Maybe both teams did it a bit hard at the welcome party last night.
Maybe their heads are all a bit too sore.
Despite the vocal efforts to the commentary, I was actually relatively sensible last night. I just have a bit of a frog in my throat. Here's Byron to get a dish off from Yentio. Nice scuba over the top.
Frisbee's putting on a zone for the first time in a while. And now they've transitioned to man, which I like how quickly and smoothly that was.
Their transitions happen really, really fluid.
Yeah, as I said it, they transitioned, and that was actually the perfect time to transition. They're not too close to the end zone line. Oh!
Just enough to get a hand in there. Number
Too
71.
many lost opportunities, but they can trap Frisbees down here with their zone if they choose to put it on, and it looks like they're not going to.
Yeah, it looks like one-on-one defense. Maybe they don't like to go to the zone when Frisbee's going downwind. Oh!
Frisbee's knocking over their own player.
That was probably not the desired effect they wanted. It's going to stretch out a little bit. Still up his shoelaces. Forward cuts, takes off deep, but they're going to just take the underneath option instead. And again, they're really threatening these deep shots in this direction, and somehow evades two Frisbee's players and hits the turf. Sullen with those pink boots nearly goes to pick it up and decides against it. I think I've got those boots. Very fetching pink boots with green laces. Thanks to reset off to anchor guard. Here's Byron. Gonna swing again. Oh, it's a bit low. And
just too low.
There's a fast break opportunity here.
They need to stop the disc roll.
Takes the dish off instead. And gonna go for the scuba. Nicely done. Saucy little throw with that. And Frisbee's getting a bit more pumped now. A bit more life in their game. And so Frisbee's well on top now. And you kind of feel as the clock begins to tick out, they're going to run out winners. Obviously, not all over for KFUM because...
As you're saying, it's a Swiss draw, so their points matter.
Every point matters. A little timeout here, it looks like. With the clock just winding down, both teams going to work out how they're going to, whether they're going to change things up as this game concludes.
I mean, first game, you don't really need the rest per se, but you need the reset opportunity to remind yourself of the team plan and reset your mind as to what you need to do for these next few points. For KFUM, I think it could just be as simple as catching the disc with two hands. I mean, we've seen a lot of just easy fumbles that have just made it so easy for the teams to turn over, and Frisbees are just getting an easy shot at goal, throwing the disc a little bit higher, not to the ground. Would you add anything to that, Benji?
I mean, not really that much. I think there's something as well is that we just had the hooter go in the background, so this game's over. So just going to play this point, add one to that, and then use that as our score cap. These first two rounds of games, so the first round of game in each division, slightly truncated, just to give teams a slightly later start on the Friday. And obviously, the first round is the round where you're most likely to get bigger margins of victory or defeat, as prediction contest isn't always necessarily the most accurate foreteller of results. So from this point forward, theoretically, the almighty algorithm will give us some cracking matchups going forward. Well, this one hasn't had its fair share of spice. Well, that's going to float and just blades towards the sideline, so no one's going to get a hand on it. This is straight to the Beastie Boys going on behind us in the background. I'm very into this.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Here's Anger Guard. Dish into the centre. So now Anger Guard again. Finds Byron coming underneath. Oh, what a block!
Gets the
Slams the door in his face. Had a couple of big blocks at the point of attack, and another one there just completely.
The handler didn't even know what happened. He just looked down at himself, confused. And Frisbees could wrap up this game very soon.
Goes for the around break. Oh,
powerful.
Yeah, just zipped past.
A punch of a disc. Back to KFUM now. And they look long with a player streaming deep. And the disc just flies out to the sideline. Just had too much curvature on it. But that was a great run from that receiver there. He had so much pace, and he had 3 defenders behind him, putting the pressure on. As we see in the replay, they just peel off once they recognize that that disc is not coming in, and it's not going to come. If KFUM play their cards right here, they could trap Frisbees down on this end zone line, get a turnover, and they can score again. Oh, and they do get the turnover.
Just thrown behind the receiver, and good field position here for Orebro.
I mean, it's like, I asked for that to happen, I shall receive. Can they bring it in? And
yes,
they do.
Yeah, towing the
sideline. It looks safely in.
So, going to be a game to 13 here. Obviously, Frisbees want to wrap it up pretty quick. Orebro will try and prolong it for as long as possible. The more points they get on the board, obviously the more chance they have of winning, but maybe even more than that, the more their coefficient improves. Oh, I love Swiss Straw. I'm assuming it was created in Switzerland, that's why it's called Swiss Straw.
Actually, it's an Australian format.
Well, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm quoting Wikipedia here, so,
ooh,
you know, this could be wrong, but...
In true millennial fashion, yeah, I'll just look it on Wikipedia, it must be right.
I believe it's actually come from a chess format. The way that chess tournaments run is you play your first game against an opponent that you're, you know, seemingly ranked up against, and then based on your results, the algorithm spits out who you're going to play next.
Interesting.
And so an Australian took that concept and converted it into a Frisbee tournament setup.
I'm not saying you're lying, but you can't trust Wikipedia, because according to Wikipedia, I was in So Solid Crew. Oh, they're going to shoot deep for Demoulin. Oh, and he waited too long. Thought he had position, but allowed the defender to come in and steal that underneath channel and get there first. But no misread, actually, has to be said. Yeah, generally, I was in So Solid Crew. Did you not know that?
What was that, Benji?
I was in So Solid Crew, according to Wikipedia, anyway. This is Ackerling. Going to break towards this near side. Towards the far side of the pitch. Just in the centre now for Orebro. Oh, and just looking for Anger Guard, but too far.
Frisbee's now with a really easy opportunity to close this game off. tight defender, though, from KFUM. Applying pressure there.
Trying to end it in one, instead he's going to take the sensible option and reset into the middle. I thought he switched to a scuba grip there, and yeah, he did. Puts it back in the locker.
Oh, and he goes for the scuba.
That is
High.
an interesting decision. Nearly got bailed out. Bacon couldn't quite be saved that time, though. That was a creative decision, shall we say.
Certainly an interesting one, not perhaps well thought out. I don't think it came off the way that he thought it was either, I think.
I think that's a high stall, Hail Mary a little bit there.
But KFUM now have to work all the way up the field.
Oh, and they're going to not be able to do it. Demilinar got a hand in that just to make sure it knocks out the sideline. Just a suitable pick up for Frisbees. Cutter comes underneath. Oh, we can try and pop it up. Van der Luk's there in the back of the end zone. He's going to make the towering sky for the win.
And KFUM player is calling it in. I think that's it.
Going to be game over. Spicy stuff to end it. Throw was too high, but doing it for Frisbees and doing it for tournament directors everywhere. Boris van der Luk makes the grab, gets up high, plucks it down, and that's going to do it for us here for this game. Frisbees running out winners over KFUM Orebro. I've been Benjamin Rees.
And I've been Hilary Humes.
Thank you very much for watching. Don't go anywhere because we've got some mixed action between Jogo Benito Social Club and KWR Nuri coming up pretty much right now.
ULTI.TV.